Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. So the Xmas season is near and I know I'm a little bit early, but this is supposed to help you to produce content for Christmas. So it only makes sense I'm a little bit earlier to enable you to go through a tutorial and then have some time, to produce something on your own. And we'll be creating this cute gingerbread house. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, it really helps the channel. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see more like this in the future, please hit that subscribe and the bell button if you want to get notified when I release something new. And if you're new to the world of 3D and Blender and you want to become a 3D illustrator, go and check out my courses that are carefully designed to teach you beginner and intermediate skills in quickest and most effective way. For example, with the new Ultimate 3D bundle, you can go from simple cubic designs all the way to full character illustration in a matter of weeks. So if you're interested, please go check out the link in the description. So let's get rid of the light here in the default scene, and we can leave the cube and we can leave the camera. We'll actually use them this time. So select the cube, tab in and press G, then Z and 1 to move it up 1 meter so it sits on its origin point. And now just scale it on X-axis, so press S, then X, scale it down tiny bit. Now let's switch to the face select by pressing 3, select the top face, press G, then Z and move it down like this. Now I will switch to the edge select by pressing 2. Select these edges by holding shift, right click and choose subdivide. And now we can select this edge in the middle, press G then Z and push this up to create a house shape, just like this. And now I will separate some parts. I want to make this into these like gingerbread parts. So let's go back to the face select and now let's select these top faces of the roof, press P and enter to separate it into a different object. And now select the front face and the back one by holding shift, and let's do that once again, press P and separate the selection. And now let's do this for the sides as well by holding shift, P, enter to separate. And now the only thing left from the original object is the base, and we don't actually need that, so press X and delete in the object mode. And let's make things easier by adding mirror modifiers. So let's select the roof, tab in, and let's additionally select the left side here and go to the modifiers and add a mirror modifier. And now we'll do the same for the rest. So tab out, select the front faces, select the back one, press X, delete faces, add a mirror modifier, and we'll need to switch this to Y-axis. And now for the sides as well. So let's tab in, let's select the left side, press X, delete faces, and let's add that mirror modifier. And now let's subdivide these parts because I want to use the displacement modifier later to give this some structure. So let's select the front face object, tab back in, let's go for vertex select by pressing 1, select these two verts and press J to connect. And additionally, let's press 1 for a front view, press K for a knife tool, and let's do a cut like this right here. You can press C to make the line straight, and after clicking you can press enter to confirm. And now it'll be easy to slice these parts like this. So press Ctrl R and create like 3 subdivisions there, and we'll do similar here, right click to release. And now let's do some of these vertical loop cuts. Okay, that'll do. So now press A to select all and just extrude this. Okay, this should work. And we have a little angle here, so to make things a little bit easier on the subdivision modifier, we can just connect some of these to give this a little bit more geometry. Now tab out, select the side here, and let's press Ctrl R and create some loop cuts like this, and vertical as well. Press A to select all, press E to extrude, just like this. And now tab out, select the roof, and let's do the same. So few cuts here and few here, just like that. Press A to select all and extrude. So this is something to start with. And now let's push this a little bit inside. So let's select the front part, tab in, press G then Y, and push this inside tiny bit. Now let's tab out and let's press Ctrl 2 to add a subdivision modifier. And let's do the same for every part here, and we will adjust the shape a little bit later. But now let's select the roof and you can see it's joined here. So let's uncheck the merge on the mirror modifier there, and let's tab in and let's select all and make this a little bit larger. So it touches in the middle and it kind of covers a little bit in the front here. You can make it even larger and push it to the side tiny bit so it covers the sides as well. Tab out, and now let's uncheck optimal display and let's have a look on the wireframe. I have it on a quick shortcuts here. You can find it in the overlays menu right there. And I think this will be enough for subdivision. I think even less would be fine, but let's try this one. Okay, so I'll disable the wireframe, and now let's right click, shade this smooth, and let's go to the modifiers and add displacement modifier. And we can create a new texture here. Let's go to the texture settings and change it to clouds. Don't worry about this, we'll make it better right away. Let's go back to the modifier settings and let's set strength to something small, like 0.05. Okay, maybe even less, maybe something like 0.03. So we have these slight bumps there. And now if we go back to the texture settings, we can play with the size and make these bumps more dense or larger. I prefer to go a little bit larger here, something like this. So we have some organic shape in place. And now let's select these two objects down there by holding Shift, shade smooth, and shift click the roof. And let's press Ctrl L and copy modifiers. They will transfer the modifiers on those parts as well. So I think this is good enough to start with. And now the main part, to actually create these sugar decorations. I thought about this, how to approach it, and first I tried to use like a painted texture with displacement, but the results were a little bit zigzaggy and I didn't quite like it, so I've decided to go for good old curves and use green pencil to paint over our house. So let's try that one. Let's rotate this a little bit and let's press Shift A and let's add green pencil object blank. And now let's switch this to draw mode. And to actually draw, we'll need some keyframe here. So let's press I and insert blank keyframe. And additionally, we'll need to switch this to surface instead of origin, so we can actually paint on the surface. But be careful, if you paint like this, you will see there's an offset in place. So additionally, you will need to set this to 0. So we are painting directly on the surface. Now let's paint some decorations, and it really doesn't matter what brush you have, we'll convert this to curves anyway. So let's start here in the corner by dragging a nice line here. And I'm doing this with my mouse, so please bear with me. I'm a little bit lazy to grab my tablet. Okay, something like this will do, I think. And now let's paint in some shingles. I'll probably fast forward through this and then show you how you can convert this to curves. And of course, I won't be doing the whole house. I will show you how to do it here, how to set up the shader, how to set up some lighting, but then I will fast forward through the rest of the process so you can get inspired, but in the end, you probably want to create your own house. So let's try something like this. Okay, so in the end, I painfully reached out for my pen and did it with a tablet. And now we have this green pencil object and we can exit the draw mode to the object mode. And now, very easy to convert this to curves. Just right click, convert to, and you can choose polygon curve. We'll use some modifiers on it later anyway. And now let's just disable the green pencil object. We don't need it here, and let's select the curves. And if you inspect it a little bit, you can see this is too dense, so we'll need to simplify this. And there's a simple command to do that, but first you need to go into preferences, add-ons, and find curve simplify. And then if you enable that add-on, you'll just press F3 here, look for simplify, and choose curve simplify. And this will create a new object, but don't click anyway here because there's a pop-up here that you can adjust. You can adjust the error here, and the more you go, you can see the curve simplify, and you can go very low poly here if you wish so. But I would rather do something like this here, something like 009 or so. And now you can just disable the original curve as well, and we have this simplified one, and we can go to the curve properties, geometry, and adjust the depth of the bevel. Now reduce the resolution here and apply subdivision modifier. So we can press Ctrl 1 and that'll make this nice and smooth. If you don't like these tips here, I recommend when you're doing your grease pencil painting, don't go continually, just go one curve at a time, so you will have them separated. And now you can go into the edit mode and adjust this a little bit better if you want to get it closer somewhere, whatever works for you. If you want, you can give this a little bit more definition by increasing the subdivision modifier, the resolution on it. So I guess this will work just fine. And to close this part here, let's just click this part here. Let's press L to hover over it. Let's go to the active spline settings and enable cyclic. That will close it up and you can adjust the corner. And again, move some of these points around so you don't have these weird overlaps or unfinished curves. Okay, let's tab out, and optionally I will increase that resolution. So this is a little bit tedious way how to do this, but for the high definition illustration purposes, I think it's worth it. You will get really nice definition and smoothness to this. Let's reduce some of these points here and there. Okay, I won't go too deep into this, so it's basically up to you to go inside. You can press Ctrl X to dissolve some of these points if you want more smooth curve results. So that's it for the modeling part. Basically, this is all you need to finish your house. And now let's get to the shading part. So first of all, let's go to the render settings, and I will enable some EV settings so that we have better previews, but I will use cycles for the final render. I will enable GPU, increase samples a little bit, and enable denoising, of course, and open image denoise for the final render, and increase tiling because I'll render this on the GPU. So that's for the settings. Let's save the file, don't forget that, so you don't lose your work. And now let's select the roof. Let's go to the shading workspace, and we already have some material in place from the default cube, so let's rename this to Gingerbread. And first let's choose some color here on the principled shader. So I want to go orange color like this, and Gingerbread tends to be more brownish, but for really stylized illustration I would rather choose something more bright, more vibrant, like this for example. And now we can increase the roughness a little bit to something like 0.7 or 0.8 even. Okay, and now let's press Shift A and let's create a color mix RGB, and I will just hover here and press Ctrl C to copy this color right over there and here as well, and select the second one and just make it a little bit brighter. We'll see how that works later. I want two colors here, and let's just connect it to base color. Now let's bring the factor all the way to 0. And now if you have the Node Wrangler add-on active, if you don't, go into the preferences and enable Node Wrangler, and then if you press Ctrl T, you will add an image texture with mapping here, but I want to replace image texture with noise texture, so I'll press Shift A, choose texture and choose noise. Let's connect it there. Let's select this one, let's press X to delete, and let's connect it again. And now with the Node Wrangler add-on, if you Ctrl Shift click the noise texture output, you will see its results. First of all, you will need to take UV mapping into consideration. You can see coordinates are from the UV map. So what you can do is to just go into the edit mode, press A to select all, press U and Smart UV Project. That will create some kind of UV map for you. And for simple objects like this, most of the time this works fine. Or you can use U and Q projection or something, whatever looks the best. And now let's tab out and let's refine the noise texture. First of all, I want to connect some color ramp, so press Shift A. Let's go to converter, color ramp, and let's increase the contrast on this texture a little bit. And of course, we'll need to Ctrl Shift click the node so we can see the results. And you can see right away what you can do with the texture here. And of course, we'll need to increase the scale. So something like 50, maybe even more, something like 100. So it's really granular. And I want to go for a little dots like this, maybe even 150. Okay, that'll be our mask. And now let's leave it connected to factor and just Ctrl Shift click the principled shader, and it should have these little dots. And let's do this in reverse. So I will copy the darker color here and make this one brighter like this. Let's go maybe even more on that scale. Okay, this should work just fine. And additionally, we can connect this to normal map. So let's press Shift A and let's go for vector and bump. And let's connect the color ramp into the height information and then into the normal channel. And you will see this will create these strong dents, but you can go lower on the strength. So something like 0.2 should work just fine. Okay, and let's map this one as well. You can see the UVs are a little bit distorted, so let's press U and Smart UV Project. That should help make this better. And here as well, U and Smart UV Project. So this will be the base for our material. Of course, you could make this a little bit more interesting, more realistic, but I wanted just to give this some structure. And we can now move on. And there's one more thing I want to use here. Apart from these curves, I want to use like little candies around the house. So let's switch to the layout workspace, Shift right click here and press Shift A, and let's add a round cube. If you don't have this option here, enable extra objects add-on and insert round cube, and now change the preset to quad sphere. And let's reduce this to 4, tab in and make this smaller like this. Tab out and right click, choose shade smooth. So this will be our candy. Now let's go back to the shading and let's create a new material. Let's call this candy. And now I want to create another color ramp. So let's go to the converter, color ramp, and now let's create some more stops here with these plus icons. And now we'll choose colors for the first one. So let's go for something like red. Here we can go for a green one. And don't forget to choose from linear to constant. Now let's go for a blue one here. And finally, maybe a purple. Now press Shift A, let's go to input, object info, and let's connect random to factor here and this one to the color. And we can go for more roughness here as well. Now what will happen, every time you create a new object, let's switch to the preview here. Every time you create a new object, it will be colored differently. Okay, something like this. And now we can use face snapping and press Alt D to create a duplicate, and by holding Control, snap it on the surface like this. Okay, you probably get my point. So these are all the techniques I'll be using here. Now I'll show you a little bit of lighting. Let's hold Shift S and snap the cursor to world origin, and let's press Shift A. Let's add a plane and make it larger. Now let's press 0 for camera view. Let's select the camera, press G, then Z, move it up a little bit like this, and let's go to the output settings and switch this to something like 1600 to 1200. And now let's create a new material for the background, and let's start with something warm so it plays nicely with the gingerbread. Now let's press Shift A and let's add light, area light, press G then Z, move it up, make it larger. I want to create top down soft light here, and let's ramp this up to something like 500. And to actually see this in Eevee, we'll need to enable scene lights and scene world. Okay, this works fine so far, and let me switch this to disk. So we have a nice softer fall off all around. And now I want to continue by adding a standard 3-point lighting. So press Shift D to duplicate this. Let's hold period to switch to 3D cursor, and now R, X, let's say 45 degrees. and RZ45 minus. So we have this light shining from the side, and you can additionally press R and X twice to adjust this angle if you wish so. And let's make this a little bit smaller. So I want this a little bit more defined. Okay, something like this. Let me press Ctrl B to limit the view for rendering. And now let's have a look at the render preview. And I really like the softness of the light and the material on the gingerbread. I think it serves the purpose here. So let's continue by adding another one here. Press Shift D, R, Z, and rotate to the other side. And I just want a few of reflections here, but not so much and not so strong. So let's reduce this to something like 250 and maybe make it a little bit warmer so it blends a little bit better with the background. And you can always press G then Z twice to go back a tiny bit. And we now just have a touch of warm tone right there. Okay, and I don't think we need any kind of backlight here. I really like this soft result. So that'll be for the lighting. In the final render, you might want to go to color management and play with the contrast and with the exposure right here. And play with the intensity and distance of these lights, play with those angles. But these will be the techniques I'm using here. I will now fast forward and finish the house in some way to have a nice render for you, so you can get maybe inspired, and I will see you on the other side. So that's the gingerbread house for you. I really hope you like this. If you did, please leave that like. It'll really help me, and I hope this will help you to create some of your own Xmas themed designs. And again, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe, it will make my day. And of course, please send me your houses. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.